Hey there, I'm DIY Pete out in Bozeman, Montana. I wanted to give you a quick overview of how I built the latest do-it-yourself project. This is a hutch for a children's bedroom, but it could also be used in the mudroom or for a sports-themed room in your home. Now, it's decked out with Denver Broncos team colors and logos. I painted it all using NFL team color paint from Glidden, and you can get this paint to match any of your favorite NFL teams. This hutch has plenty of storage space. It has the locker room style theme. It has hooks to hang jackets, ball caps, and backpacks. It has the bench where you can sit down and tie your shoes or read a book, and the lower storage for storing toys, shoes, cleats, or what have you. All right, let me show you how it was made.
The main tools you'll want to pick up or borrow are a drill, kreg jig, circular saw, nailer or hammer, miter saw, orbital sander, clamps, and tape measure. And the main supplies is going to be 3/4 inch plywood, 1x12 boards, 1x4 boards, 1x2 boards, some paint supplies, and coat hooks. For the complete tutorial, downloadable plans, and more information, head over to diypete.com/hutch. The first step is to cut the larger pieces of plywood down to size for the bench top and the underside of the lower cubbies. Use a circular saw and a straight edge for this process. Once you've cut the larger pieces, we can move on and cut the separators for the lower cubbies. Remember, always measure twice, cut once. Now we'll make the adjustments on the kreg jig so we can use pocket holes to connect the boards, adjust the jig itself, and then the stop collar on the bit to 3/4 inch stock settings. Drill 3 to 4 pocket holes on the top and lower side of each separator. This will enable us to connect the lower shelf to the cubbies and to the bench top. Measure 3/4 inch in from each end on the underside of the bench, then attach the cubby separators using 1 1/4 inch kreg screws. And I'd recommend using wood glue for all the connections made during this build. Decide how wide you'd like each cubby and then measure to evenly space each divider. A straight edge and a square will help ensure the boards are straight and parallel to each other. Then rotate the plywood that is the lower shelf of the cubbies and drill 4 pocket holes on each side so we can later tie it into the 2 end caps using those 1 1/4 inch kreg pocket hole screws. Mark a line level with the cubby separators to line up that lower shelf. Then use some wood glue to help attach the shelf prior to using those 1 1/4 inch pocket hole screws. And sometimes it can be a little bit tricky to get that drill into that smaller space, so you may have to use a slightly smaller or shorter bit. Attach the lower shelf to the sides using 1 1/4 inch kreg screws as well. I framed out the lower section using 1x4s that I cut with a miter saw, and then I used a kreg jig to create pocket holes on each end of the 1x4 and along the width of it so that it could tie into both the sides and to the lower shelf. After attaching the 1x4s on both the front and the back, I added 2 in the middle to add a little stability to the bottom frame. Next, I cut the 1x2s down to size for the trim, and this is definitely going to dress up the front of your furniture. You'll want to use glue and then nails to attach the trim. And if you notice, I got a couple new tools in this video. I started using the Ryobi Airstrike nailers, and I've really been impressed with them. There's no loud compressor, there's no cords or hoses to mess with, which makes it super convenient and pretty awesome. Now we'll move on to the upper part of the project. We'll start by cutting the 1x12s down to size using either a circular saw or a miter saw. These 1x12s are going to form the lockers and the upper shelves. Use pocket holes to connect the 1x12s to each other, and if you have a clamp, it's going to make the process a lot easier. I added 1x4s between the 1x12 boards to increase the strength of the hutch, and I'd recommend making spacers the same width to help make sure the vertical boards are all straight and parallel. I used 1x4s toward the bottom to help tie everything into place, and then I did the same toward the top using 1x4s, and I tied them in using the 1 1/4 inch kreg jig screws. You'll find that a kreg clamp is going to come in real handy for this process, and don't forget to use glue. Then measure and mark for where your shelves will be placed. I attached 1x4 boards underneath each shelf to help increase the strength of the overall piece. Drill 3 pocket holes on the sides of each 1x12 shelf, then level and attach each shelf using glue and the 1 1/4 inch pocket hole screws. Next, cut the 1x2 boards down to size with a miter saw to use as trim, and then we'll take an orbital sander to smooth out any of the rough edges. After this is done, you can use glue and either a nailer or a hammer to attach all of that 1x2 trim to the front of the hutch. I also added trim on the top left and right side of the hutch. To give the furniture a locker room style feel, I cut a 4x8 sheet of beadboard down to size with a circular saw to use behind each locker and each cubby. Now we'll move on to painting today's project. I used Denver Orange and Denver Navy, and I'd recommend priming the wood with white paint prior to rolling on the lighter colors because it's going to help make the paint more uniform and it's going to help the colors really pop. I used 2 coats of the Denver Orange NFL Team Colors paint. Tape off areas as needed to help create clean lines when using multiple colors. I used 2 coats of Denver Navy, and I didn't prime the board simply because it was a darker color and I didn't really think priming was needed. Then I painted the trim with 2 coats of white paint from Glidden. Attach the beadboard to the back sides of the cubbies and lockers using either a nailer or a staple gun, and I used the back side of the beadboard for the center section so I had a smooth surface to paint a logo on. Next, I lifted the lockers onto the bench and worked on the Denver Broncos team logo. I used a stencil to help paint the design on the front and with the lettering on the sides. And take your time, you'll have to be pretty meticulous with this process, but I know you'll do a great job with whatever team logo you are going to paint. Lastly, I installed a few hooks in each locker to hang jackets, backpacks, and other gear. And here's the final piece. I hope this video inspires you to go out and make your own hutch project and to paint it using NFL Colors team paint. So good luck, have fun, and cheers from Bozeman, Montana. Don't forget to check out my other NFL-themed DIY project. Click on the thumbnail to learn how to build a rolling bar cart to use on game day at your next barbecue or at the stadium. And you can find the complete tutorial for today's hutch project at DIYpete.com/hutch. Please subscribe to this video if you liked it. Cheers, guys.